Terence Bud Crawford admits via Stephen Espinosa, formerly of Showtime, currently a consultant with the PBC, a fact related to Jaron Ennis, that there ain't no ducking going on. And in fact, a certain deal that was talked about was never real. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, call this house cleaning. Issues and conversations that have taken place last year and the year before, where there's a lot of accusations being thrown around, tend over time to find a way to just kind of be swept into the closet without ever being clarified when circumstances arise that give us better visibility into what the facts were. Well, guess what? Now we got some. As it relates to Terence the Great Bud Crawford, and I mean that wholeheartedly, Terence the Great Fighter Bud Crawford, and a young fighter who is the IBF 147-pound champion, who Terence Crawford should be fighting if he keeps holding on to those 147-pound belts, and that is Jaron Boots Ennis out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There was talk back in 2023 that a fight had been offered to Jaron Boots Ennis by Terence Crawford, and Jaron Ennis turned that down, and therefore Jaron Ennis ducked Terence Crawford. Well, now we have some additional information, this coming from Stephen Espinosa, who clarified something, that a conversation that he had with Terence Crawford himself. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can know when the videos get released during the times that those buttons actually work, because YouTube gets real funny with that. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel, and the super thanks of videos like this, your little $ by the comments. And so, hey, if you at least leave a comment, if you can't support the channel and help us keep the lights on for this boxing conversation, at least leave a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Try to be a little bit respectful if you don't mind. And, you know, hey, man, may have a conversation with you. If you don't, you can always hit me up on Instagram. I do reply to DMs that are sent to me on Instagram and on Twitter if you follow me on theirs, and there will be a little thing up here that'll tell you, you know, where to get me there. Love talking boxing with people. Now, it was said that Terence Crawford told an organization called BLK Prime that he was willing to fight with Jaron Ennis. BLK Prime went to Jaron Ennis and said, hey, or Bozy Ennis and said, hey, are you willing to do this fight? And he said, yeah, but Showtime's got to be involved. So the representatives of BLK Prime talked to Stephen Espinosa, who was with Showtime. BLK Prime says they have a conversation, and apparently, this is the original conversation. Stephen Espinosa talked about what they wanted for the fight, and they were going to talk later, but the conversation never happened. The follow-up conversation never happened, and therefore, it's obvious that Terence Crawford, that Jaron Boots Ennis didn't want that fight with Terence Crawford. Now we've got word from Stephen Espinosa that says that he actually spoke to Terence Crawford about that offer. And according to Stephen Espinosa, Terence Crawford said, BLK Prime does not represent me. They don't have a right to offer a fight for me. Shocker. Terence Crawford, when asked by Showtime about the fight with Jaron Ennis, Terence Crawford says to Stephen Espinosa, BLK Prime doesn't represent me. I'm my own free agent. They can't represent me. Now, this is not the first time that has happened with Terence Crawford. If you recall, when Terence Crawford announced that he would be fighting David Avenesian and not Errol Spence Jr., he said that some mystery person had called Al Heyman and started negotiating on his behalf with Al Heyman. And the things that he had agreed to that Terence Crawford didn't agree to, because that guy doesn't represent him. So this is not the first time that Terence Crawford would have, after having some kind of conversation with somebody that say that they represent Terence Crawford, that the PBC or Showtime hears from Terence Crawford that he doesn't represent him. So not as if that's not true, because with BLK Prime, that's very obviously true. They didn't have a contract with him. So what they were just trying to do is barter a fight and put a fight together. And that's what Steven Espinosa said again. And more importantly, what he also said was when Showtime talked to BLK Prime, they asked, are you trying to put up any money? And they didn't have any money to put up. They didn't have money to put up. That's what Steven Espinosa said, if I recall correctly. They said, okay, what kind of money are you putting up? No money. They didn't talk about any money, putting any money up for the fight. So it's like, look, basically, these are just some guys off the street that are just cold calling and trying to put together a fight. And I was telling you guys that whole situation was somebody, a YouTube channel or a person that has a YouTube channel. Let me be extremely respectful. It is a person that had a YouTube channel, that had multiple connections, that tried to play the middleman, tried to play the glue in the scenario, saw if they could, I know Terence, I know Bozy, I know this guy. Let me get them all in a room and see if we can work some magic. If we're able to work some magic, then hey man, then I can get paid, right? I can get a cut of it. I can be involved in it somehow, some way, right? It's going to work out for me. And guess what? People do that all the time. They do that in government contracts. They do that in the business world. They do that a lot of times. You have a third party or a middleman or like a lobbyist to somebody that would do that, where they're lobbying for some type of thing to take place. That was pretty much what it was. That was not a serious situation in which Terence Crawford was trying to fight Jaron Ennis. And another thing Steven Espinosa said was that obviously I was not going to be trying to make a fight between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis when Errol Spence Jr. has been waiting this entire time to make a fight with Terence Crawford. We wouldn't even be trying to do that, right? And I think that's something that just conveniently, for people that don't like the PBC or don't like Errol, or they really like Terence, or they're just trying to put a jacket on somebody, forgets. How in the world could Terence Crawford, Jaron Ennis duck Terence Crawford, while Terence Crawford was in a negotiation for well over a year to fight the biggest fight of his career, an undisputed championship fight at 147 pounds against Errol Spence Jr. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to put that jacket on that dude like that. But that's what we live in boxing right now, where anytime somebody says, I want this, if that fight is not made the next day, that guy, somebody's ducking him. It's like people want to say, well, I just want to see the best fight the best. I don't care about the business. But the problem is that the business is real. You may not care about the politics. You may not care about the business, but don't act like they're not real. You know what I mean? Don't act like they're not real. You don't say, hey, I really want this Corvette. I really want to drive this Corvette. I don't care about how much it costs and whether I have the money for it, or whether or not the person that I want to get it from actually wants to sell it to me because they're going to get paid for it. Oh, you're not giving me the car I deserve. Well, you're not paying for it. Oh, well, who cares about that? Well, I mean, why we live in this world where money has to matter? Because we do live in this world where money has to matter. It would be great if we could just all walk down the street and just grab hamburgers off of trees, you know what I mean? And just eat whatever we want and sleep in whatever house we walk by, and everybody could be all kumbaya. And that's just not what we live in. These people got to earn money, and they got businesses, and they've got other interests, countervailing interests that people have to work through. It's just very, very real. But to accuse everybody of ducking no matter what off the slightest whim, it's just over the top, man. And it's not And it is worse for boxing than the business is, because at least the business actually makes fights happen. This stuff drags down the reputation of fighters that could be fighting other people. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.